You haven't read The Princess Bride? Inconceivable! You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it does. Yo, book nerds! In 2023, I read The Princess Bride, S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure by William Goldman. And this book was delightful. I picked this book up for a couple reasons. First off, I had seen the movie and loved the movie. The movie is hilarious. And so I wanted to see what the book was like. The other reason I picked this up was because this book came out in 1973. So since I read it in 2023, it was 50 years old. It was the 50-year anniversary. And if you've seen my classics video, you'll know that I define a modern classic as a book that's 50 to 100 years old. So this book is now a modern classic. So I thought, what better way to celebrate it than to read it? But seriously, this book was delightful. It was so funny. It was one of my top books of the year last year. So great. If you are unfamiliar with the movie, I'll give you a little bit of what this book is about, but I really don't want to spoil anything. So basically, this is a love story between Buttercup and Wesley. And I'll just say that there's this man named Prince Humperdinck that gets in between them and causes issues. So that is like super vague, but I really think you just need to read it. Like, it is so funny. And if you've seen the movie, you know what it's about. But honestly, even though I already knew what this book was about, it was so much fun. There is great humor right off the bat. There is like a little introduction that I encourage you to read. Don't skip it. It comes right before chapter 1, and it's basically the author, it's Goldman, talking about why he wrote this book. And he claims that he didn't write this book. He claims that someone named S. Morgenstern wrote the book. And he says like his father read it to him, and then when he was older, he discovered that his father shortened the book that he was reading, like that there were all these parts that were boring that his father had cut out. So he decided to abridge the original work to just the good parts. And like, it is written in such a way, this introduction is written in such a way that you almost believe it. And I had to like look it up that no, there actually isn't an S. Morgenstern. And Goldman did just make all this up. Like, it is a long-standing, long-running joke. In the introduction, he even complains about his wife and his pudgy son. Like, he complains that his son eats too much. That doesn't really age well, I admit. But he doesn't even have a son in real life. He has a daughter, I believe. So, like the way he writes this introduction, it sounds like it is from his actual life, but it's not. It's completely made up. And so it's so funny. And then throughout the book itself, Goldman will like butt into the narrative and be like, oh, when I was editing, when I was abridging this, I did this, or I did this because, and he'll explain why. Except that there is no actual original work, so he didn't abridge anything. He wrote the entire book. And it's hilarious. I am going to read you another little description of the book just because it's so delightful. So, this is what the book is about. Fencing, fighting, torture, poison, true love, hate, revenge, giants, hunters, bad men, good men, beautifulest ladies, snakes, spiders, beasts of all natures and descriptions, pain, death, brave men, coward men, strongest men, chases, escapes, lies, truths, passion, miracles. That is this book. This is honestly one of the funniest books I have ever read. I would be sitting on the couch reading this, literally laughing out loud. And Taylor would be sitting next to me just watching me like, are you okay over there? But I was having such a great time. And honestly, I read this. This was the first book I read after all the books I read for my summer classes last year, and I was definitely in a reading slump. And this was the perfect book to read because it was so much fun. And even though it's kind of long, I didn't care. I was enjoying myself, which is what I needed. I needed it so much. So this edition has obviously The Princess Bride, but then at the end, it also includes part of Buttercup's Baby, which was supposed to be the sequel to this book, but unfortunately Goldman passed away before he ever finished it. And so part of it is included here, the part that he did write. And I did read that part and it was fine, but it cuts off before anything gets resolved. And so like, you don't have to read that part. You can if you want to, but the whole part that is The Princess Bride is just pure gold. I just can't even rave about it enough. It was so hilarious, so entertaining, and just chaotic, crazy fun. It was so absurd at points and just ridiculous. It was just so much fun. And there are just some great lines in this book. So many lines from the book make it into the movie. And I love it. Every time I'd get to one of those famous lines, I would just be like, it's so good. I mean, there are so many famous lines, seriously, like the part where Miracle Max says to his wife, "Back, witch." And she says, "I'm not a witch, I'm your wife." And I'm still laughing. And then you also have the famous line by the Archdeacon, "Marriage is a dream within a dream." Like, oh my God, it's just so funny. And if you haven't seen the movie, obviously you may not know those famous lines, but seriously, like the movie was just playing in my head in the best way. Like the adaptation is perfection. It is just so great. And then the last couple sentences of The Princess Bride, I just have to share because I liked them. But I also have to say for the umpty-umpth time that life isn't fair. It's just fairer than death. That's all. Like, yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Yeah. So, I do want to get into a little bit of spoilery talk. Not really. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I just have to talk about this. So, spoiler alert, because this happens in the middle of the book. So, like I said, Goldman has this running joke that he abridged this. It even says on the title page, I will show you. It says on the title page, it says the good parts version abridged by William Goldman. I don't know if you can see that. The good parts version abridged by William Goldman. Like, he will not admit he wrote this book. But anyway, this running joke, it gets even crazier. So like halfway through the book, Buttercup and Leslie are separated and then they are reunited. And when they're reunited, Goldman like cuts into the narrative and he's like, "I am mad that S. Morgenstern didn't write a reunion scene. And so I wrote a reunion scene. But I got into legal trouble with Morgenstern's estate because I was just supposed to abridge it, not add anything to this story, so I couldn't include my reunion scene." He wrote this book. There is no S. Morgenstern. But anyway, he starts rambling on about this reunion scene that he wrote that he wasn't allowed to include in this book, but that you could go read if you wanted. And he includes in here a website and an address on where you can write in or go to the website to view and read his reunion scene. So of course I had to check it out. So first I thought, let's try old school. So I wrote in to the address he listed exactly the way he said and mailed it off, asking for this reunion scene to be mailed to me. Unfortunately, about a week later, I got my original letter back undelivered. So that didn't work. So I didn't give up. I went to the website and unfortunately hit another dead end. The website was no longer there, but I didn't give up. So So I just went to good old Google and Googled reunion scene, The Princess Bride, William Goldman, something like that. And eventually I did find a PDF, I believe it was, of the letter that used to be mailed out and that used to be on the website that was written by Goldman. And I'm assuming that since his death, that's why you can no longer write in, and that's probably why there's no longer an actual website. But I did find the letter, and it just continues this absurd joke. He basically says, I'm sorry, I can't send you the reunion scene because I'm caught up in legal stuff, and S. Morgenstern is still fighting me on this reunion scene. And it's like a page or two, I don't remember now, just explaining these legal issues. And I so encourage you to go look for that. If you read this and when you get to that part, go find it and read it, because it just adds to the crazy, absurd joke that is this book. It was so fun and delightful. But like I said, this book is just hilarious right off the bat. The first line of the book, of the introduction that I don't think you should skip, the first line is, "This is my favorite book in all the world, though I have never read it." Like, the humor in this is just stellar. I love it. I do not think you would be disappointed by reading this book. Can you tell that I loved it? Seriously, go read it. If you have read it, let me know if you loved it and enjoyed it as much as me. And if you didn't, tell me why, but seriously, I don't know how you can't enjoy this book. It is wonderful. So funny. And so that is all I have for you this week. Hit like and subscribe. And remember, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Thanks for talking books with me.